the No Fate channel. Checking in. Jonathan here, and today I'm giving you my 8-year review of the Zero Water, both their 30 cup and their brand new 40 cup. We're going to talk about how it works, why I went with Zero Water over Pure and Brita filters, as well as the pros, the cons, the cost, and what I would do differently, if anything, when it comes to the Zero Water, and some of the pitfalls that people find themselves in when they pick this thing up. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome aboard. I cover men's health, fitness, and of course, men's lifestyle. And 8 years ago, when my son was born, I took a really hard look at the water purity that we were consuming. Now, at the time, I was using Brita, a 2-stage filter that's common to many households. But I was concerned because some of the formulas and some of my son's intake of liquids was water that we purified. But of course, when you're 200 pounds, those impurities don't have as big of an effect as when you're 10 to 20 pounds. So I wanted something that was really going to filter our water down to something as pure as I felt comfortable with. And I did some digging and of course, found Zero Water. Full disclosure before we dive in to the meat of today's video, I have absolutely zero association with Zero Water. I bought everything you saw in today's video myself, so I am on the hook and I've got no affiliate links or associated codes to help you get any discounts. Pros and cons of the Zero Water filter, as well as the pros and cons between the 30 cup and the 40 cup. First and foremost, how does it work? You put your tap water into the top reservoir. It then is filtered through a 5-stage Zero Water filter and deposited on the bottom with purified water. And then you are able to use the dispensers in order to draw that water. The biggest benefit of going with the Zero Water versus a Pure or a Brita filter is that Pure and Brita are 2-stage. And of course, the Zero Water, much bigger, much larger, is a 5-stage. Now, one of the downsides of the Zero Water is that even though this is a 5-stage filter, as you imagine, it is much more expensive than a 2-stage filter, much more expensive than Brita or Pure. Because you're getting a better, more refined product, a better, purer water, you're all going to have to pay more. The best place to buy these is Amazon, link in the description. I found these to be between $10 and $13, depending on how well you get a deal or how big of a quantity you get. It's even cheaper than going to the company's website and using their coupons. How much water can you filter through one filter? The reality is it all depends on your water. Your tap water, depending on where you live, has a different level of impurity than other locations. For me, using this TDS filter, I am able to register between 100 and 150 coming out of the tap. And then once it's filtered down here, it comes out as 0. So for me, my water from my tap is not that bad, and I average about 35 to 40 gallons per filter. If you live in a location with exceptionally dirty well or tap water, you can expect less than 35 gallons per filter. And I will tell you that when they are flushing the pipes in my city and the water comes out brown, I don't even bother to use the Zero filter. I buy bottled water just because it would ruin the filter, because that water, of course, is just so polluted. It's not even worth trying to filter it out. Time out. I need to give all of you a massive thank you for using my affiliate links, which are in the description of today's video. And when you use those links, it does support the channel and my water addiction. Another downside with the Zero Water is the filtration time. This, because it is a 5-stage filter, will take longer than your Brita or your Pure. But again, you're going to be getting a better result, which is why it is nice to have these big 30 and even 40 cup containers, allowing you to build up a large reservoir and simply not worry about the filtration time. When do you need to change the filter out? Well, again, it all depends. What will happen over the time, the water will taste absolutely amazing, and then you'll notice a little bit of weird taste to it. You will then check your water with this TDS meter, which is a total dissolved solids, and if it reads over 0.006, it's time to change that filter out. When you first install the filter, and for quite some time, the water reading after it's been filtered will be 000 on your TDS filter, meaning that your water has 0, or at very least very close to it, total dissolved solids. Now, this is not the end all be all of what could be in your water, but man, it is pretty darn close, and it is a great way to test the level of your overall water that you are drinking. Differences between the 30 and the 40 cup, as you can see, the 30 cup is going to be longer. The 40 cup actually has a smaller overall square footage footprint, but it is taller. Now, if you have a standard refrigerator, the 30 cup will fit on your top shelf if you want cold water during the summertime, but filling it up will be a bit of a nuisance. One of the major downsides for me with regards to the 40 cup zero water pitcher is that it actually comes with an extremely cheap and plastic spigot, which is prone to leaking. I actually went out and bought this stainless steel version, which is much heavier duty, much easier to clean, and frankly worth every penny of its $13. Link in the description. For water dispensing, this you simply push in, and this one you actually turn. Both have a very good flow rate. However, I did find that this one to be a lot more convenient. One of the downsides of the 40 cup filter is the fact that there is more water trapped that is unable to be kind of pulled out through this nozzle because the nozzle is much higher off the ground than this one here. And when this one runs low, you can simply tilt it forward, allowing you to kind of drain a little bit more of the water out of the bottom here. Cycling through even more pros and cons, 30 cup made out of plastic, clearly going to be much cheaper for the initial purchase than the 40 cup, which is metal and glass, and you will have to buy the additional nozzle. But the real expense, as you can imagine, is not with the initial purchase. It is with these filters, which you will want to buy in bulk and look for on sale. How long do the actual containers last? The answer is forever. This is actually my second container for my 30 cup over the past 8 years. The first container broke because I dropped it. It had no actual manufacturing issues or defects, and there was no wear and tear on it. How often do I actually clean out the zero water pitchers? And the answer is every time I change the filter, I do clean it out. I use soap and water, and that seems to do the trick. I let them air dry, and then I get back to it and install a new filter. I will say that the 30 cup is a lot harder to clean out because of the mechanism down here. You really got to flip it upside down and get a lot of soap in there and work it through in order to get soap and detergent inside the actual spring mechanism that is down here for this release, whereas this can actually go into your dishwasher if you would like. Not necessarily have to, but it does give you that option. And now it's time. It is time for Fate of the Union, where I give you my final thoughts on the zero water 5-stage advanced filtration. Overall, 8 years ago, I'm glad I found this bad boy. Glad I found zero water because I feel the quality and the taste of the water that we drink on a day-to-day basis is much higher than when we had the Brita. I am a big fan of pure water in terms of making sure that you're not drinking contaminants. And while the zero TDS on the meter does give you some reassurances about your total dissolved solids, it is, of course, not the end-all, be-all with the water. Now, a lot of people are concerned that they're not getting any minerals with their water, that that's some type of negative or setback, and that would be the case if you were only drinking a water diet. But for many of you that are going to be actually consuming food, you're going to get plenty of micronutrients and minerals through your food. You're not going to have to get it through your tap water. With 4 people in our household drinking tons of water and, of course, using water to cook daily, it's nice for us to have the bigger pitcher, the 40 cup, because frankly, we're just lazy and it is a bit of a pain to have to wait for the water to be filtered when you run through it. Overall, does this make sense for your household? It probably does if your initial tap water is not absolutely filthy. If you live in an area that has absolutely nasty tap water, that has a high TDS to begin with, it's not going to make much sense because you're going to be paying more for the filters than you are going to be paying for if you got bottled water at the store. The filters are going to last a lot less the dirtier the water coming in. Now, for most Americans out there, the tap water is pretty darn good, all things considered. So getting something like this is going to give you over 30 gallons per filter, and that's going to bring the cost per gallon substantially down compared to what you would have to buy if you were to go to the grocery store and buy distilled water. If you're thinking about the 5-stage zero water advanced filtration device, hey, grab it, pick it up, and you can just thank me later. It's been 8 years now and I haven't looked back once. If you want to see more videos like today's content, check this one out. And if you made it this far in the video, you and I are like Dave Portnoy and pizza. We are a band of brothers. Hell, we're best friends. Shake and bake. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. And as usual, don't save anything for the trip back.